South Korea President Yoon Suk Yeol has vowed to unturned his impeachment votes passed by lawmakers on Saturday evening, according to the Asia country local time, a parliamentary decision which suspended him from performing his duties as the country president, but he will remain in office as the nation's president until the Constitutional Court made of 6 judges, 4 of whom were appointed by Yoon, decide if the impeachment is lawfully acceptable or not. Yoon Suk Yeol was suspended from presidential duties at South Korea local time at 7:24 p.m. Saturday, according to local media. The impeachment case will proceed to the Constitutional Court for review, and according to local observers, there is still uncertainty regarding the result at the Constitutional Court, saying there are currently only 6 judges, 4 of whom were appointed by Yoon. South Korean lawmakers voted on Saturday after last Saturday insufficient votes to impeach President Yoon Suk Yeol following a short-lived declaration of martial law last week Tuesday night. Yoon presidential powers are expectedly, according to the law, will be formally suspended once he is served with a copy of the impeachment resolution. Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, appointed by Yoon in 2022, will take over as acting president while the country's constitutional court takes up the matter. Shortly after the parliamentary votes, Yoon, in a nationwide address, repeated his intention to fight the impeachment in the Constitutional Court, which will now decide whether to reinstate or formally remove him, a process that could take up to 6 months. "I will never give up," he said in a televised address shortly after the vote. Reports and videos posted online showed inside the National Assembly with a loud cheers and gasps from lawmakers when the speaker announced that the votes in favor of impeachment had crossed the 200 needed to pass. The result indicated that 12 lawmakers from Yoon's party joined the opposition to impeach him. Earlier reports showed protests in full swing outside the National Assembly, with thousands kept coming but orderly carrying placards, and floor cushions were distributed with markings on the floor for where to sit. People streaming out of subway stations here and nearby. "It feels like today's protest is their duty," one of the South Korean residents in Seoul stated in a tweet on X social media. The thousands of protesters gathered outside the assembly in frigid weather jumped up and down, and hugged or shook hands, with some playing drums in celebration of the favored impeachment votes were announced. Outside the National Assembly, loud cheers washed over a large crowd of pro-impeachment protesters, some of whom had set up free coffee and food stalls for fellow participants. According to local observers, the Constitutional Court would have 180 days to rule on Yoon's future. If it backs his removal, Yoon would become the second president in South Korean history to be successfully impeached. A dozen members of Yoon's Conservative People Power Party joined opposition lawmakers to pass the threshold of 200 votes, which was 2/3 of the legislators required for his impeachment. The final vote was 204 to 85. "This is a triumph of democracy and of the South Korean people," Park Chan-dae, the opposition party floor leader, said after the vote. The opposition leader, Lee Jae-myung, while addressing the crowd, noted that their fight was not over. "We've only just overcome a small mountain," Lee said. "There is a larger, steeper mountain ahead," Lee added. Han, the prime minister who will step in to perform presidential duties, was appointed by Yoon in 2022. On Saturday, Han said in a brief comment that his heart was heavy. "I will focus all my strength and effort on stably running the affairs of the state," he said. The National Assembly voted to impeach President Yoon, with 204 lawmakers in the 300-member House in favor and 85 against the motion. 3 refused to vote or decided to be neutral, while 8 votes were declared invalid. During the week, we had reported that South Korea Defense Minister Kim Yong-il, who is believed to have recommended hours-long martial law that turned the Asia country into political turmoil since last week Tuesday, have been arrested on Sunday after he had resigned last week, and others believed to be involved in the martial law decision have been placed on travel ban with the ruling People Power Party, PPP. saying the president, Yoon Suk Yeol, would no longer be able to travel or participate in foreign and domestic affairs until he resigned. Bae Sang-up, a Justice Ministry official, had told a parliamentary hearing that the South Korea Justice Ministry has banned President Yoon from leaving the country following requests by police, prosecutors and an anti-corruption agency as they expand their investigations into the circumstances surrounding Yoon's power grab. AP International News Agency reported that, while a sitting South Korean president has immunity from prosecution while in office, that doesn't extend to allegations of rebellion or treason. This means that Yoon can be questioned and detained by police over his martial law decree, but many observers doubt that police will forcefully detain him because of the potential for clashes with his presidential security service. They also say the security service won't likely permit searches of Yoon's office, citing a law that prohibits searches on sites with state secrets without approval from those in charge of those areas. In the case of former President Park Geun-hye, who was thrown out of office in 2017 after being impeached by parliament over a corruption scandal, prosecutors failed to search her office and ended up receiving documents outside the compound because presidential officials turned them away. After refusing to meet with prosecutors while in office, Park underwent questioning by them and was arrested after the Constitutional Court approved her impeachment and ruled to dismiss her as president in March 2017. Meanwhile, Reuters reported that South Korea's main opposition party said on Tuesday it would pass a government budget bill for 2025 that triggered President Yoon Suk Yeol's martial law decree last week, at a plenary session scheduled to be held later in the day. The opposition-controlled parliament last month cut 4.1 trillion won from the government's proposed 677.4 trillion won, $473 billion budget. We will pass the budget bill today, Democratic Party leader Lee Jae-myung said. A swift passage of the bill will help resolve the current uneasiness and crisis. The government says the budget cut will paralyze basic government functions, hinder responses to external challenges and delay policy measures for small businesses and the vulnerable. President Yoon cited opposition obstructionism over government budgets as one justification for his martial law decree on December 3, which triggered a constitutional crisis in Asia's fourth-largest economy. Senior Democratic Party lawmaker Park Chan-dae said if the government needed money for spending for people's livelihoods, it can be solved later through an extra budget. Although Yoon narrowly avoided impeachment during a parliamentary vote on Saturday, local media reported that the president remains under intense scrutiny with investigations ongoing into allegations of insurrection and abuses of power, with several key allies also implicated. The Justice Ministry confirmed that former Defense Minister Kim Yong-ayan has been arrested and now in detention, and ex-Interior Minister Lee Sang-min are among those prohibited from traveling abroad. General Park And-soo, who led the martial law operation, and counterintelligence commander Yoon In-ayong have also been barred from leaving the country. Park faced further questioning on Monday as investigators ramped up their efforts to uncover details surrounding the failed imposition of martial law. Opposition leaders have decried Yoon's decision to transfer powers to his unelected Prime Minister and People Power Party (PPP) chief, labeling it a blatant constitutional violation. Democratic Party leader Park Chan-dae accused Yoon of orchestrating a second insurrection by undermining South Korea's constitutional framework. Former Defense Minister Kim Yong-ayan, who reportedly proposed the martial law declaration to Yoon, was arrested on Sunday. He had earlier resigned on Wednesday after apologizing and saying he would take full responsibility. Travel bans have been placed on Kim, Lee, Defense Counterintelligence Commander Yoon In-ayong, and Army Chief of Staff Park And-soo. Many others have stepped down from their political offices. These include former Interior Minister Lee Sang-min, who resigned on Sunday, saying he would take responsibility for failing to serve the public and the president well. Some had on Wednesday, which included senior aides of Yoon's office, including his chief of staff, tendered mass resignations hours after the martial law declaration was lifted. In a public address on Sunday, PPP leader Han Dong-hoon said Yoon will no longer be involved in foreign and domestic affairs until his early resignation, adding that Prime Minister Han Duck-soo would manage government affairs in the meantime. The president will not be involved in any state affairs including diplomacy before his exit, said party leader Han. Democratic Party floor leader Park Chan-dae described the proposed plan as an illegal, unconstitutional second insurrection and a second coup. Representative Kim Min-seok of the Democratic Party similarly criticized the plan, saying, "Nobody gave PPP leader Han the power to make such decisions." The Prime Minister and the ruling party's announcement that they would jointly exercise the powers of the president, which no one has given them, is clearly unconstitutional, he said, according to a report on the Korea Herald. The Ministry of National Defense confirmed at a briefing on Monday that the president retains command of the armed forces. That means in the event of any foreign policy incidents, including any possible threat from North Korea, Yoon is still, in theory, able to make executive decisions, according to BBC. We had reported that lawmakers in South Korea on Saturday failed to carry out their planned impeachment of President Yoon Suk Yeol, who earlier in the week declared few-hours-long martial law, which was condemned and resisted by both the president's ruling political party, People Power Party, PPP, and the opposition Democratic Party, DP. But today, the PPP boycotted the impeachment process, with the party leader saying the president would resign. The impeachment process failed as many lawmakers refused to vote and the parliament could not gather enough votes required to impeach a president in South Korea. After the impeachment failed, the president's political party, PPP, said that it could not allow a repeat of the 2016 impeachment of the then-president Park Geun-hye, who left office after months of candlelit protests over an influence peddling scandal. Her downfall triggered the implosion of the party and a victory by liberals in presidential and general elections, according to Reuters. We cannot repeat the tragedy of paralysis of state affairs and suspension of constitutional government through the impeachment of the president, PPP spokesperson Shin Dong-UK said, adding that Yoon had apologized and had vowed to leave his future up to the party. Thousands of demonstrators holding candles and lights flooded the streets outside Parliament on Friday and Saturday nights, demanding Yoon's impeachment. At least 8 votes were needed from Yoon's PPP to reach the 2/3 majority needed to impeach the president. But PPP lawmakers departed after casting votes on a separate motion, even when some people shouted and cursed them. Only 3 lawmakers from Yoon's party voted in the impeachment process, according to Reuters. President Yoon had earlier on Saturday morning addressed the nation in a televised speech to apologize for the move, and said he would face whatever repercussions there would be, but he did not offer to resign. Yoon said he would put his fate in the hands of the PPP. "I caused anxiety and inconvenience to the public. I sincerely apologize. I will leave it up to our party to stabilize the political situation in the future, including my term of office," Yoon said in a televised address. After the failed impeachment vote, PPP leader Han Dong-hoon said the party had decided that Yoon would resign. The declaration of martial law was a clear and serious violation of the law, Han told reporters. Reuters reported that Han has a history of clashes with Yoon, but it was unclear if he was speaking for all PPP members. There was no word yet from Yoon on Han's comments. The People Power Party will pursue an orderly departure of the president in order to minimize confusion for the people, Han said, adding that until Yoon leaves, he would be effectively excluded from his duties, and the Prime Minister will consult with the party to manage state affairs, Han said. National Assembly Speaker Yoon Suk Yeol appealed for the PPP lawmakers to return to their seats during the impeachment voting process, but to no avail. The opposition needed at least 8 votes from the PPP, but only 3 of them voted as at 8 p.m. South Korea local time. We had reported that lawmakers in South Korea on Wednesday submitted a bill for the impeachment of President Yoon Suk Yeol for declaring martial law on Tuesday night, invading National Assembly complex with masked martial law military troops to stop rapes from overturning or overruling the declaration. But the ruling People Power Party (PPP) held an emergency meeting later on Wednesday and resolved to unite and stand as hurdle against the call for Yoon's impeachment. Local media reported that the decision to stand as hurdle to the opposition party's lawmakers' impeachment notice against Yoon was made at a meeting of the ruling PPP lawmakers, who endorsed the party's position of opposing President Yoon's impeachment, according to Seoul-based Yonhap news media. According to local media, Yoon had earlier met with Prime Minister Han Duck-soo and other PPP leaders on Wednesday to discuss future strategy after opposition parties filed an impeachment motion in response to the brief martial law declaration late Tuesday evening and Wednesday early morning night. Political observers in South Korea said that the impeachment motion must receive a 2/3 majority in parliament to be approved. The opposition will need 8 votes from ruling party lawmakers out of the 300 lawmakers in the National Assembly to pass the bill. Yoon's declaration of martial law is a clear violation of the Constitution, the Democrats' party wrote in a resolution seeking Yoon's impeachment, according to the South Korean news agency, Yonhap. This is a serious act of rebellion and a perfect reason for impeachment, the Democrats stated. For the impeachment to take effect, lawmakers now have 24 to 72 hours to vote on whether to oust the president. Notably, no PPP lawmakers supported the impeachment motion, though the head of the party expressed exasperation with the martial law decree on Tuesday. According to Yonhap, given the current makeup of the assembly, 8 PPP lawmakers would have to defect to give the motion the 2/3 majority it requires to remove Yoon. Reuters through its Facebook page showed a live broadcast view of South Korea's parliament after South Korean lawmakers submitted the bill to impeach President Yoon Suk Yeol. CNN also identified a woman in a video that has gone viral as an GWI Ryung, a journalist turned lawmaker scuffling with an armed soldier outside South Korea's parliament building during the political turmoil on Wednesday early morning night, and is the spokesperson for the main opposition Democratic Party and former anchor on broadcaster YTN. It would be recalled that parliament members in South Korea battled soldiers to get inside their building at 1 a.m. after the country's president declared emergency martial law, blaming Democratic opponents for bringing his conservative government to a standstill and, without proof, colluding with North Korea. Lawmakers blocked the president's declaration unanimously with 190 votes to 0, for the parliament members who were able to force their way into the National Assembly hall midnight. President Yoon, elected in a bitterly fought election in 2022, declared martial law on television on Tuesday night, a widely unexpected move that shocked the nation and international observers. Yoon argued that legislative obstruction by the opposition Democratic Party had turned the National Assembly into a den of criminals and necessitated military action. I declare martial law to protect the Republic of Korea from the threats of North Korean Communist forces, to immediately eradicate the unscrupulous pro-Pyongyang anti-state forces that pillage the freedom and happiness of our people and to protect free constitutional order, Yoon stated during the declaration on Tuesday night on national television. The Democratic Party-controlled National Assembly rapidly sprung into action, flooding into legislative chambers while blocking heavily armed soldiers who have stated that, under martial law, political assemblies were illegal. The Democrats have controlled the assembly since April, when they won regional elections against the Conservatives in a landslide. Protesters had flooded streets, demanding President Yoon Suk Yeol resignation after a long night of military and civilian show of force in South Korea from 11 p.m. on Tuesday night and almost throughout entire early morning night of Wednesday, when 190 lawmakers from opposition political party, including 18 from the president political party, jumped fences to convey important and urgent parliamentary meeting after President Yoon Suk Yeol declared martial law in the country and ordered massed martial law troops with rifles to invade the National Assembly of the fourth Asia's largest economic country to stop the lawmakers. But the soldiers met a stiffer civilian barricades who engaged the soldiers with fire extinguishers at the National Assembly complex and held them back until the lawmakers successfully held the plenary session and voted to outlaw the president's martial law declaration. Videos posted online showed thousands of South Korean protesters held a candlelight vigil and rally in downtown Seoul streets against President Yoon Suk Yeol, who has been in office since 2022, to resign. Protesters held up signs that read, "Step down President Yoon Suk Yeol," as people and lawmakers attend a rally in Seoul, the South Korea capital, according to Reuters. International news agency. South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol had on Tuesday declared martial law, vowing to eradicate shameless pro-North Korean anti-state forces and restore order. Martial law was last declared in the country in 1979. Soon after the declaration, protests broke out in Seoul and thousands gathered at the National Assembly, with South Korea's main opposition party lawmakers and some ruling party lawmakers jumped fences and tussled with security forces so they could vote to overturn the law. According to Reuters, thousands of demonstrators gathered outside the parliament where there were minor clashes with police and military. Lawmakers gathered to vote against martial law, as both opposition lawmakers and leaders of Yoon's own party decried it as unconstitutional. All 190 of the lawmakers present voted to lift martial law, including 18 from Yoon's own party. Yoon ordered troops to pull back and later lifted the decree after convening a cabinet meeting. 190 of the National Assembly's 300 members defied police and military cordons to vote against the declaration, forcing Yoon to lift the martial law order. The move late on Tuesday shocked South Koreans, with Yoon calling in the military, which released a decree banning protests and activity by parliament and political parties, and placing media under government control, according to Reuters. The international news agency added that the military named Army Chief of Staff, General Park An-soo, a four-star general, to head a martial law command and released the decree effective at 11 p.m. on Tuesday. Besides banning political activity and restricting the media, the decree also ordered striking doctors back to work. Those who violate martial law could be arrested without a warrant, it said. Masked martial law troops equipped with rifles, body armor and night vision equipment entered the National Assembly, where the first of with staffers who opposed them with fire extinguishers. Secretary General of South Korea's National Assembly, Kim Min-ki, condemned the military on Wednesday morning for breaking into the legislature during President Yoon Suk Yeol's brief imposition of martial law, saying that nearly 300 troops had stormed the compound. Kim Min-ki said at a news briefing that, "I strongly condemn the illegal, unconstitutional actions of the military and the destruction it caused at the National Assembly premises due to President Yoon's decree of martial law." He vowed to seek legal remedies for the damage caused, and he said the police, who prevented some lawmakers from entering the building overnight, would be barred from the premises. Kim offered the most detailed official account yet of the military's incursion, saying, about 230 troops were flown by Kyiv on Saturday in Paris, hints United States of America, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump that Ukraine needed just and enduring peace, that Russians under the leadership of President Vladimir Putin can't destroy in few years, with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy also stating how Russia is trying to subjugate Georgia after many wars against the country. Zelenskyy stated this in a statement issued last Sunday, giving out brief report of the outcome from the meeting he had with the U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, French President Emmanuel Macron at the Élysée Palace during the Notre Dame Cathedral's reopening ceremony of the church building that caught fire in 2019. Yesterday, I visited President Emmanuel Macron at the Élysée Palace and had a good meeting with President Donald Trump. We discussed important issues on the battlefield and in the global situation, from our front lines to North Korea. I stated that we need a just and enduring peace, one that the Russians will not be able to destroy in a few years, as they have done repeatedly in the past. This is clear not only for our country and region. We see how Russia is now trying to subjugate Georgia after several wars against that country. Russia still does not want to ease its grip on Moldova. Now the Russians are retreating from Syria, but that does not mean they will not try to sow death there again. Russian military presence is also active in Africa, with the sole purpose of destabilization. Therefore, when we talk about effective peace with Russia, we must first and foremost talk about effective guarantees for peace. Ukrainians want peace more than anyone else. Russia brought war to our land, and it is Russia that most seeks to disrupt the possibility of peace. Updated data on Russian losses show over 750,000 casualties, including 198,000 killed and more than 550,000 wounded. Our people are defending their homes at the cost of their lives, and every life of our soldiers and our civilians is precious to us. Since the start of the full-scale war, Ukraine has lost 43,000 soldiers killed in action on the battlefield. There have been 370,000 cases of medical assistance for the wounded. It also needs to be mentioned that in our army approximately half of the soldiers wounded in action are later returning to the battlefield, and that our data also includes light or repeat injuries. One of the key distinctions between the Russian army and Ukraine's defense forces is the level of frontline medicine, which is significantly higher in our forces. We are deeply grateful to everyone who supports its development, saves our wounded in action, and facilitates their rehabilitation. Since September this year, Russia has been losing troops on the battlefield at a ratio of 5:1, or even 6:1, compared to us. They want to seize more land before global pressure on them becomes unbearable. Additionally, we must not forget our people in Russian captivity, thousands of both military personnel and civilians, some of whom have been held since 2014, when the occupation began. Since February 24, 2022, we have already managed to bring 3,935 of our people home, 3,767 soldiers and 168 civilians. But we must bring everyone back, and much work remains to be done. We must also establish the truth about all our people who are missing. We must also remember the Ukrainian children deported by Russia. Russians themselves admit that these abducted children number in the hundreds of thousands, dispersed across their territory. Returning them is the most challenging task. On the occupied territories of Ukraine, at least several million people remain. This is the reality of this war. It cannot simply end with a piece of paper and a few signatures. A ceasefire without guarantees can be reignited at any moment, as Putin has already done before. To ensure that Ukrainians no longer suffer losses, we must guarantee the reliability of peace and not turn a blind eye to occupation. We know Putin very well. He is addicted to war. He began his career with a brutal war against Chechnya and has been constantly fueling other wars. He can only be stopped by strength, the strength of world leaders who can become leaders of peace. We count on America and the entire world to help stop Putin. The only things he fears are America and global unity. It is precisely such peace through strength that we discuss with all our partners, as well as the steps and guarantees needed for the people and the state attacked by Russia. War cannot be endless, only peace must be permanent and reliable. After meeting with the President of Georgia in Paris, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said that he expressed Ukraine's full support and solidarity with the Georgian people who are fighting for their dignified future, and emphasized that respecting the will of the Georgian people and preventing Ivanishvili's government from surrendering the country to Putin is essential for the stability and future of the region. For Russia, this is not just about Georgia, it is about control of the Black Sea region, a strategic Russian goal that poses a threat to the national security of everyone in the region and across Europe. I assured President Zelenskyy that Ukraine will coordinate with partners, not just in Europe but globally, to deliver a systemic response and support the Georgian people in defending their right to live freely and independently. Reacting to last weekend attacks in Ukraine, Zelenskyy said, "Russia's words mean nothing, but their bombs and missiles speak volumes." On the evening of St. Nicholas Day, aerial bombs in Zaporizhia hit a service station directly, cars with people inside. As of now, 4 people are known to be wounded and are receiving medical assistance. Tragically, the list of fatalities includes 9 names. In Kryvyi Rih, a missile strike targeted an ordinary city building, injuring 17 people and killing 2. And these are just 2 Russian attacks on 2 Ukrainian cities in a single day. Thousands of such strikes Russia has carried out during this war make it absolutely clear. Putin does not seek real peace. He seeks the ability to treat any country this way, with bombs, missiles, and all other forms of violence. Only through strength can we resist this, and only through strength can real peace be established. I thank everyone who is supporting Ukraine's efforts. May the memory of all the victims of Russian terror be eternal. Ahmad died. I congratulated the young patients on St. Nicholas Day, spoke with the children, their parents and doctors. This war has brought so many things into our children's lives that should never be part of childhood. Yet, despite it all, they remain children, and we must do everything to ensure they have a happy and safe childhood. We are proud of our children and everyone who fights and works for their future. On Friday, Zelenskyy in a video press release said Russia tried to overrun Ukraine's air defense system yesterday morning. Today, Russia attempted to overload our air defense systems, as they always do during such massive attacks. This time, they deliberately waited for freezing weather to strike, aiming to make life even harder for people. The attack coincided with a cold snap, a deliberate, cynical act of terror against people. Every missile was directed at energy infrastructure, but thanks to the accuracy of our defenders and the reliability of our air defense systems, many lives were saved. Each time Russia launches new strikes against our country, it underscores an objective need, steps that show Putin his terror will not succeed. Instead of seeking ways to end the war, he uses missiles. It is war and intimidation that keep the Russian throne under this person. However, our partners should not be concerned with how to ensure the stability of such figures in Moscow. Instead, they should focus on guaranteeing stability for themselves and the world, stability and security that are only possible through peace. I am deeply grateful to everyone. United States of America, USA President-elect Donald Trump says his nominee for the job of Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI Director, Kash Patel is the most qualified person to lead the agency in its history, saying, Kash Patel will restore law and order allegedly lost under the leadership of Christopher Wray, who promised to resign as FBI Director at the end of President Joe Biden's tenure. Donald Trump stated this on Thursday across his social media handles in reaction to the promised resignation of Christopher Wray on Wednesday at a town hall meeting with FBI employees. Reuters had reported that Wray's resignation makes him the second straight FBI director driven out by Trump, who during his first term in office fired Wray's predecessor, James Comey, after souring on him over the FBI's investigations into alleged contacts between Trump's 2016 campaign and Russia. That sparked one of two federal prosecutions Trump faced while out of power, neither of which went to trial. Trump denied wrongdoing and described all the cases against him as politically motivated. Federal prosecutors ended their efforts after his election, citing long-standing Justice Department policy not to prosecute a sitting president. FBI directors are appointed for 10-year terms, a measure meant to avoid the appearance of partisanship after political turnover in the White House every 4 years. Wray's term was not due to expire until 2027. Throughout his term, Wray said that he strove to impartially carry out the FBI's duties. During a 2023 hearing before a House of Representatives panel, he rebuffed the idea that he was pursuing a Democratic partisan agenda, noting that he had been a lifelong Republican. The idea that I am biased against conservatives seems somewhat insane to me, given my own personal background, Wray said. Reuters International News Agency report ends in quote. Wray's decision to resign came 2 days after a key Senate Republican called for his departure and following a steady drumbeat of support for President-elect Donald Trump's replacement, Kash Patel, according to multiple media outlets. Trump appointed Wray in 2017 during his first term, but he became a constant target of criticism because of investigations on the former president, now president-elect, over Russian interference in the 2016 election and classified documents recovered in an FBI search of Mar-a-Lago. Wray told FBI employees in a town hall meeting that, "In my view, this is the best way to avoid dragging the bureau deeper into the fray, while reinforcing the values and principles that are so important to how we do our work." Local observers said that Trump and his hardline allies turned on Wray, and the FBI more generally, after agents conducted a court-approved search of Trump's Florida resort in 2022 to recover classified documents he had retained after leaving office. Trump described the resignation of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI Director Christopher Wray, as a "great day for America," claiming it marks the end of what he termed the weaponization of the United States Department of Justice. In a statement posted on his X handle on Thursday, Trump accused Wray of overseeing actions that undermined his presidency and the nation's future. Trump said under the leadership of Christopher, they have used their vast powers to threaten and destroy many innocent Americans, some of which will never be able to recover from what has been done to them. In quote, Trump said, "The resignation of Christopher Wray is a great day for America as it will end the weaponization of what has become known as the United States Department of Justice. I just don't know what happened to him. We will now restore the rule of law for all Americans." Under the leadership of Christopher Wray, the FBI illegally raided my home, without cause, worked diligently on illegally impeaching and indicting me, and has done everything else to interfere with the success and future of America. They have used their vast powers to threaten and destroy many innocent Americans, some of which will never be able to recover from what has been done to them. Kash Patel is the most qualified nominee to lead the FBI in the agency's history, and is committed to helping ensure that law, order, and justice will be brought back to our country again, and soon. As everyone knows, I have great respect for the rank and file of the FBI, and they have great respect for me. They want to see these changes every bit as much as I do, but, more importantly, the American people are demanding a strong, but fair, system of justice. We want our FBI back, and that will now happen. I look forward to Kash Patel's confirmation, so that the process of making the FBI great again can begin. Thank you, Donald Trump said. Kash Patel, Trump's pick to lead the FBI in the next administration, has been meeting with Republican lawmakers the past week on Capitol Hill. Patel, who has served as the Defense Secretary's Chief of Staff and Senior Advisor to the National Security Council, was chosen for his stated goals of reforming the bureau following years of eroding public trust. In 2023, NBC News cited a poll that found the public's positive view of the FBI has eroded 15% since 2018. On Monday, incoming Senate Judiciary Chair Chuck Grassley, Iowa, wrote an 11-page letter to Ray, encouraging Ray to step aside and move on to the next chapter in your life, adding, "I therefore must express my vote of no confidence in your continued leadership of the FBI." Although he was originally appointed by Trump, Ray fell out of favor with the president-elect during the Biden administration following his perceived weaponization of the bureau and the raid on Mar-a-Lago. Ray's name has been mentioned among those Biden may offer a preemptive pardon, according to local media in the North America country. Patel, who would need to be confirmed by the U.S. Senate, has never worked at the FBI and only spent 3 years at the Justice Department earlier in his career in the National Security Division's counterterrorism section. If confirmed, he has pledged to shut down the FBI's headquarters building in Washington and drastically redefine the Bureau's role with intelligence gathering, according to international news agencies' reports.
After weeks of careful thought, I've decided the right thing for the Bureau is for me to serve until the end of the current administration in January and then step down. My goal is to keep the focus on our mission, on the indispensable work each of you is doing every single day. And in my view, this is the best way to avoid dragging the Bureau deeper into the fray while reinforcing the values and principles that are so important in how we do our work.
Are you going to be seeking retribution against Donald Trump's political
Now, it should go without saying, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyways. This is not easy for me. I love this place. I love our mission, and I love our people. But my focus is, and always has been, on us and on doing what's right for the FBI. Because when you look at where the threats are headed, it is clear that the importance of our work, protecting the American people and upholding the Constitution, will not change.
Thank you all.
And what absolutely, positively cannot, must not change is our commitment to doing the right thing in the right way every time. Our adherence to our core values, our dedication to independence and objectivity, and our defense of the rule of law. Those fundamental aspects of who we are must never change. That's the real strength of the FBI, the importance of our mission, the quality of our people, and their dedication to service over self. It's an unshakable foundation that has stood the test of time and cannot be easily moved. And you, the men and women of the FBI, are why the Bureau will endure and remain.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.